Family, welcome to another episode of Financial Freedom. I am your host and your accompaniment on this journey, Derek Brown. So thank you for being with us. As always, I got to remind you all that we started with one show on March 19th, 2020. And because of over your 45 million views over these months, we've grown to 35 shows on various different streaming platforms. So I always have to say thank you. Thanks are always due. If you can, follow us on any platform that pretty much streams shows at The Hope TV, all caps, one word, at The Hope TV. Again, thank you for joining us tonight. Our guest is excellent. I've had the privilege of having conversations with him various times, and he always says something of quality, something worth listening to. His name is Derek Grissom. He's a dynamic leader with over 20 years of experience in corporate America. Derek has worked in telecommunications for industries and companies such as AT&T, Comcast, and currently Hargray Fiber. Derek has been excelling at his career in various aspects. Here's one thing that I want to mention about him. He has a unique educational background. He actually dropped out of high school at 17 with a ninth grade education. He soon realized not completing school was a mistake. And so he pivoted, went back to school, enrolled in a GED program, got an associate's degree in business, he got a bachelor's degree in business administration, and got a master's degree in business administration. And since then, he has done nothing but go up. He has such responsibilities now as providing quarterly P&L statements, bi-quarterly meetings with the CEO, senior leadership. He's presented in front of various people. He's done wonderful things in his career. He's an Atlanta native. And he likes to say, and he's a Grady baby, as he likes to say, and as he said before in our conversations. And he enjoys traveling, playing spades, and spending time with close friends. Ladies and gentlemen, on our topic tonight of being able to pivot in a pandemic, I want to introduce Derek Grissom.
Thank you, Darren. What an introduction, my brother. Thank you.
Glad beautiful, beautiful. I'm okay. No. Thank you for being here with us. One thing that I said before we even got started is I always appreciate your ability to bring value to almost any conversation that I've had with you, whether it be in public or in private. So I just want to thank you for being here. I know you have a lot to do. If I read your bio right, you are now a general manager. Is that correct?
Yes, I am in transition. It will be official in a couple of weeks, but I'm transitioning into that role. So I'm happy.
Congratulations are in order, my good man. I think there's somebody that does it for you. I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but about that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and you've had a story because you dropped out at 17, and now you're a general manager in telecommunications. So tell us a little bit about your story, and what is this unique quality that you feel like even in a pandemic you're still excelling?
All right. Well, first of all, Derek, thank you again for having me. 45 million views is a lot, so I don't take it for granted that I was invited on the show. So thank you, and thank your team, Dr. Connor, et cetera, for inviting me. I do appreciate it. As far as excelling in a pandemic, pivoting in a pandemic, I will tell you that one of the biggest things for me is having strong work ethic. And to your question about my schooling, you are correct. I didn't really do well in high school, but I did do well in high school because I started working at 14. So I was tall. 14. I started working. 14. My first job was Popeye's Chicken, and I told him, yeah, I don't eat it to this day. I don't eat it to this day because of that. But I told a fib and told them that I was 16 because I was tall. And they went ahead and hired me. Okay. And then they started allowing me to close when I probably wasn't supposed to close. I was supposed to be in bed getting ready for school. And 14 through 17, I enjoyed working so much because of the money. I fell behind in my classes. I was too tired to go to class. That's really what happened. So I woke up, and before I knew it, I was this big old 17-year-old in a ninth grade homeroom. And that just was not going to go well. So I
Right.
convinced my mom. I convinced my mom to allow me to drop out. Got my GED, and as you stated, worked hard throughout my 20s to get the associates, the bachelors, and the masters. But I will tell you this: what has driven me from then to now is having a
Right.
strong work ethic. It didn't matter if it was doing schoolwork or if it's my current job now. Understanding goals and working hard and giving your all. When we talk about financial freedom, when we talk about pivoting, when we're talking about prospering in a pandemic, it starts with work ethic. Whatever your trade is, you just have to work hard at it. And I think that's what I would attribute to at least some of what is helping me now.
So let me ask you about that, because I think when some people hear strong work ethic, they just think just work harder, work harder, work harder. But when we've had conversations before, you've taught me a lot about being able to be a people person, to be able to welcome in whoever kind of comes in your circumference. First and foremost, welcoming them with a sense of compassion. Because I've never, when I hear you talk to people, and when we've talked about, your ability to be a manager, to counsel and train others, um, are there any specific qualities when it comes to um, when it comes to work ethic that you think are specific to you, that you think are very helpful in your field?
A few things. I'll say to the point you just made, in sales, we say people do business with people that they like. Well, people communicate and they like to be around likable people. I'm not suggesting that everyone has to always smile as much as I smile, but
Right.
definitely
Right.
be genuine. I think all of us can be welcoming, have a welcoming spirit. So I think that's important. I think commitment. When I think about work ethic, I think work ethic. We use the word work ethic, but it's not just for work. It's for anything you have a goal to put your mind to. So being committed to what you say, letting your word be your bond, do what you say, and then stand true to it. And then I think being resilient. Work ethic means everything is not going to always go your way. There are times I will tell you throughout my 20s while I was in school, I was an administrative assistant for over 10 years. I hated that
Wow.
job. I stood out like a sore thumb. It paid the bills, but there was nothing about it that I liked. But I tell you what,
Right.
I was still had good work ethic. I was still resilient, and I knew that I had a larger goal to ascertain, and that's why I stuck with it. So it didn't matter if I liked it or not. Good work ethic.
Got you.
I did what I had to do to get where I was going, and now
Right.
I'm doing what I love.
Got you. Got you. So what? So your work ethic is what carried you, and that's incredible. Um, being in the environment, I've definitely worked and been around people who, when I go into a place and I patronize their business, you can tell who doesn't want to be there. It, it can be a little apparent. I gotta ask, just for a couple of people who are looking for Derek, Mr. Grissom. I'm working a job I don't like, but I gotta pay these bills. How do I keep a good attitude working a job I don't like if I can't pivot right now? If I can't get anywhere else right now, I gotta work this job I don't like. Could you please help me keep a better attitude at work? How do I do
That is a very good question. And the way I would answer that, and I trust me, I have been in that situation before. Um, Self-motivating is key. Oftentimes, what I do when I find myself in that space is I motivate myself. I have a very, we go to the same church. I have a very deep belief in God. I have a strong faith. So I know that regardless of whatever, God's going to take care of me. But even without getting religious, just understanding my worth and my experience and what I can achieve. I would say to anybody who's in a job that they don't like, because you took on that job and you accepted that responsibility, you owe it to that employer to do your best. Because at the end of the day, you're still getting paid based on the contract or the agreement you signed from the beginning. It's not like you're doing a job and you're not getting it. So you still owe it to your best. The reason why you should do your best is because doing your best keeps you sharp. Doing your best keeps you strong. Doing your best will help you network and get to the next level. It's
Gotcha.
nothing worse. I employ people. I have a team. I've been employing people for the last few years. It's nothing worse than a disgruntled individual, whether it's an
Mm,
employee or whomever. Nothing worse than that. You deal with
yeah,
disgruntled customers, but a disgruntled employee, man, that's not a good combination. So I would say stay true to your goal. If your goal is to move on, work hard, paid job, but work hard to try to find something else and get out of that and keep with the attitude of one day I'll be out of this.
got you. Got you. One thing I always wondered about this because you've done what you just said, everything you just said, you have excelled. It seems like in every job that you've touched, in my opinion. I very much admire that about you. I very much admire that you have this almost dogged determination that if you do a job, you're going to do it well. And I've always admired that about you, just period. Um, how did you get into this field that you love? Because you have a couple of MBAs. I mean, you have a bachelor's and a master's in business. You could have gone any direction. What how did you wind up in this
How
place
did
where
I
you like
pivot?
you love this space? I love what I'm doing right
Right.
now. Like, you know, this
That's
is great.
good. I will tell you how I pivoted into sales. I think that's a fitting term. I was working in nonprofit. I was actually a director of operations for a nonprofit back in 2012, and had just finished my MBA, and I wasn't happy. I'm just going to be honest with you. I just wasn't happy. I knew my worth. I knew what I wanted to do, and I just wasn't happy in this. Never mind the fact I didn't feel like I was being paid what I should have been paid. I
Right.
was working 70, 80 hours a week. And here's the thing, here's the work ethic behind that, just to tie that in. I wasn't happy, but my employer didn't know because I did my job regardless. I knew I had to go. So a friend of mine knew that I was a Toastmaster in public speaking. You know, I like public speaking. And he said, "Hey, Derek, you probably need to consider a career in sales because you like to talk and you do a good job at it." And I looked at him crazy. I'm thinking, dude, I'm not going into sales. Man, oh man. But then I looked at his life. This brother here was sharp. He didn't like to talk. He made a lot of money in sales. So I knew he was putting on an act anytime he was in front of a customer. He's anti, he does not like to talk. So I tried it
Okay.
out. Long story short, I tried it out. I did door to door. I was selling door to door UVerse for a third party. It wasn't even AT&T, but it was a third party. I was door to door MBA up in Canton, Cummings, Georgia, selling UVerse services for all commission job. After about
Okay.
3 weeks, I started doing so well. I was winning TVs, you name it. They started. So I said, if I'm doing this well,
Hold
why
on
not
one
try
second, Derek.
AT&T?
Hold on. I hate to interrupt you, but I just want to point this
All
out.
right.
What you just described was a pivot, right? What you just described was I could not stand this job. And you correct me if I'm summarizing this wrong, right? What you just said was I could not stand this job, but I still came in every day on time. I still did my best. My employer never knew I was frustrated. He never knew I was irritated. I came in there, knocked it out the park, and went home. And because of that, and now I'm guessing now, so you correct me if I'm wrong. I had a friend of mine who knew my work ethic and knew what I did, and then he said, "Look, I think you might be great at sales." So because
You're
he saw
100%
your
right.
work ethic, okay, so because he saw your work ethic in this place that you didn't like, he's like, "Look, if you can do that over there, then maybe you can do it over here and make you some good money." So because of what he saw
Correct.
there, he put you on, and you're selling AT&T U-verse door to door,
Door to
doing your
door with
thing.
a post MBA, I big tall self knocking on people's doors in Cumming, Georgia. And I'll leave it at that.
Got you.
And I did well. And what was interesting is I'm selling this Uverse. I'm listening to him. I was apprehensive, so I'm in a job I don't like. Before I don't didn't know it, I leave the job on faith. I had no savings. They didn't fire me. I left, and then I go. It seems like I'm pivoting backwards. It seems
Right.
like I'm pivoting backwards
Because you
because
already
I'm,
have your
I'm going
degree
into
though.
a sales job. Correct. I do that.
Right.
And best decision I could have made because after being successful in that role for about 2 months, it
Yeah.
dawned on me that I did have that degree. Why not go work for AT&T instead of a third party selling the universe? And I applied. The rest is history. They relocated me. They put me through training, relocated me to Connecticut. I came back, went to
Okay.
Comcast for 5.5 years, and now I'm here. So had I not made that decision to move on faith out of a job I didn't like into a job of unknown territory,
Right.
there's no
Right.
telling where I would be. And then I found out I love it, and now I'm teaching others to do it. So
Wow. Okay. So there's a couple different things I see happening in that story. One, you pivot from the job that you don't like to a job that you might like, just hoping that it'll work out because you're looking for something better. That's one pivot. That happens because of your incredible work ethic and your people skills. Then you come into the job and you're knocking it out after 2 months. And then you pivot again after you recognize the skill that you're good at to Comcast. And then Comcast sees you and go, oh, he's killing. Put him here,
well,
do
so
this, do
from
that.
Uverse from the Uverse to AT&T and then Comcast. So AT&T was first. I was selling AT&T Uverse. I wasn't
Okay.
working for AT&T. I was working for a third party. I
Okay.
applied to the real company. They hired me on, and then they relocated me to Connecticut. So I got tired of the
Mhm.
cold weather with AT&T, and Comcast brought me back to Atlanta. But to your point,
Okay.
the pivot kept going.
So it just wasn't one or two pivots. You just was all over the
I
place.
just all over the place,
So
but I kept doing it because I had faith enough to believe that God would provide for me.
so help me understand here. Part of it, don't get me wrong, and I'm not pushing the faith part aside. I'm not at all. Actually, I'm gonna ask you to comment on it in a second. But part of your pivot had to come with a certain level of flexibility, right? Part of that was your faith, right? Because you
Yes,
knew
at
that
risk.
right that God was gonna hold you down.
Absolutely.
What was the other? Was there another anything else in there that said, "I can do this. This is a little stressful. It's taking me out of my comfort zone." Was it primarily just your faith that said, "Hey, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be fine"? What did you do on those stressful times when you felt like maybe you didn't want to move?
Well, so it was the faith,
Okay.
but then it was the money because what I realized. Let me give you that part. What I realized is for all the negative things people think about salespeople who are good make a lot of money. And I was
Gotcha.
exposed to that. So I'm not gonna lie. Once I got a taste of that, I liked it even more because I'm like, whoa, okay. I thought it would take me, I thought I'm 41 now, but at the time I was, when I got my MBA, I was 32. And I had told
Gotcha.
myself by the time I'm 45, I should be making six figures. I think that's fair. My way up. No one could have told me that I would have been making that by the time I was 30. No one would have told me that 3 years later, not 10 years, not 13 years later, that I would have been making it. No one could have convinced me of that. So the money had
So
a big
30,
part.
34, you said you were making six
I
figures?
was, well, I was 30. I was 32 when I got my MBA, and I had
Okay.
convinced myself that by the time I'm 45, I should at least be making six figures. That's what I said when
Okay.
I finished. I started making six figures by the time I was 35. So it was 3 years later, as
Gotcha.
opposed to 13 years.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay.
All because of sales and work ethic and goals and everything we talked about, all this pivoting. And the rest is history.
Wow. Wow. Let me ask you this then. for those of us who may not have an MBA, right? Those of us who are in this pandemic and we're trying to figure out the best way forward. I've seen so many memes on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all these places like, yo, if you don't come out of this pandemic with the skill, then you wasted your time, blah 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 blah. If you don't come out of this with the LLC or something, it's always something. Um, and given some people are just trying to hold on, they're just trying to make it through this phase. However, my question becomes, when you're trying to navigate this space, what advice would you have for people in this kind of COVID situation that is really that may help them move forward despite a pandemic? Is it just the work ethic? Are there any things that you've seen from people in this season that has said to you, wow, like they're killing it right now, and here's why?
That's a good question, Derek. I would say this is a great time, whether you have a job or not, and certainly we pray for those who don't have work. But this is a great
Right.
time to consider reinventing yourselves and reinvent yourself to doing something. I can honestly say, even though sales pay a lot of money, I like doing it, and I enjoy what I do. I enjoy working with people. I enjoy being consultative.
Right.
And I
Right.
feel like this is a perfect time for people to discover what they like. It may whatever it is, whether it's sales, whether it's being an entrepreneur, whatever it is you like. This is the time to study on it, read up on it. I mean, my God, you may not have an MBA, you may not have a bachelor's. You don't have to necessarily have any of that to do well in some of these careers. But what you
Yeah.
do need to do is you can educate yourself, do self-education. Oh, there are all types of free certifications out there. There are, you can Google information and learn enough sometimes to pass the test. Believe it or not. I think that there's going to be something that you have to bring to the table. I believe,
Mhm.
regardless of what it is you like to do, but find out what you like. I would advise anyone, find out what you like and then work towards that goal. If it means you need to go back to school, guess what? You need to go back to school. You don't have to like it. You just have to go back to get the credential. If you don't have to go
Gotcha.
back to school, that's fine. But that's what I would say. Find what you like to do and then do what you like. And if you do what you like and you do it well, the money will come.
Do what you like and do it well, and the money will come. Got you. Are there any do what you like and do it well? It's when I talk to people about that, it's interesting because if and I'm trying to find the right words to say it. Um, if what you like doesn't pay well, do we go to what we don't?
Good question. I say you
Because I've
become
heard that
creative.
as
I,
someone who's
I,
worked in the human services field, I always wonder about that wrestling match. And I've had conversations with people, especially in this time, where some people I know have left their field for better paying jobs because it was available, they got let go. And so now they're working in fields that aren't necessarily their field, but it pays well. So do we go to a and and this is completely subjective, right? But it's
Absolutely.
when do those people go to a field that pays well and dabble in what they love? And what would you
So,
suggest in
so,
that?
so here's what I would say to that.
Okay.
All of us, depending on the field, depending on our passion, depending on what we like, we may
Right.
take different paths. So the minimum is do what you like and do it well. That's the minimum. Well, for some professions, doing what you like and doing it well, in order to make good money in it, you may have to be an entrepreneur and own the business. You don't get to go and find a sales job like Derek and just make revenue for other people and get paid. You got to work 10 times harder in that sense, and you have to end up owning a business before you see the type of money
Right.
that you would see in another profession. But that's what that means, because you can walk and chew gum at the same time. I am a proponent of jumping ship and finding a work that pays you what you need to survive, while keeping your hands in your passion so that you can get to that point that you can go back and do what you want to do. That's what I did. I was knocking doors. I'd had it. I didn't have to start off there. I didn't have to start off with some third party company, 100% commission with no benefits. But I did it. And then once I got really good at it, I went back and went to a reputable company. You can mix and match. It's not a one way to do things. But depending on your path, some people are going to have to do it differently than others.
Right, right. I think what's sticking out so much to me about this topic and discussing it with you is the amount of flexibility you had. I find that amazing because a lot of people are looking more for stability, less about flexibility. They just want something stable, right? They want something that feels that I guess the lack of a better word is just makes them feel comfortable. And I keep on here. Maybe it's just me now. He could be speaking to me. I don't know. But just the amount of flexibility you had in your story to be able to pick up those jobs where you maybe didn't have any benefits to knock them out well, to pivot to go to you said Tennessee,
Connecticut.
Connecticut,
They
go to
relocated me
Connecticut,
to Connecticut.
right? To even to be willing to do that and then make your way back
They're
to
like,
Atlanta at some
we're back.
point.
Like,
But when you went to Connecticut, you did so well that you had the option of coming back to Atlanta. That's what I
I'm
think
sorry.
is.
Say that last part again.
I say what's so interesting about me is that your consistency in your work ethic is such that when you went to Connecticut, again, you may not have liked the situation, but you did so well that it gave you the option to come back to Atlanta. And I think that's vital too, is that you step into these positions, but when I listen to your story, you consistently apply a work ethic that gives you options.
So let
Because
me speak on that too. It's the work ethic, but you call it flexibility. I'm going to go so far and say it's risk and faith because at the end of the day, it's flexibility, but it's risk and it's faith. I had enough faith to know God's going to take care of me when I go out when I leap out here because it's a
gotcha.
leap,
Right.
and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to be good at it. I'm going up
Mhm.
to Connecticut. Don't know a soul up there. I don't know if I'm going to like it or whatever. But I think
Yeah.
my faith in God gave me that risk factor to where I'm just going to try it out. At the worst case scenario, I'll fall back on going back to becoming an administrative assistant before I got these degrees. That's the worst case scenario. And I can do that anywhere. All of us have a
Gotcha.
skill before we get to what we really want to do. So we can always fall back.
Right. Right.
It may
That is
not be
true.
what we like, but we all have that. I just
Hmm.
wanted to keep progressing to where I wanted to go.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's very evident. That's very evident. I like that, man. I like that. So let me ask you this, because we've heard so much about these different pivots and watershed moments. Let me ask you this: when you've done these things, what has been your greatest challenge in these kind of pivot moments, or just being able to have that faith and flexibility? What has been your biggest challenge in these kind of times?
The biggest fear for me is failure.
Mm,
It's not an option, but it's still a fear. If that
okay.
makes failure for me is not an option, but it's still a fear because my mind, even though I have all this faith, my human mind says, Derek, you're analytical, and here are all the pitfalls when you do X,
Yeah,
Y, and Z.
I got you.
I'm going to do it anyway because I'm half crazy. So I'm just going to do it. Here are all the pitfalls.
Look, half crazy works sometimes. Half crazy is very helpful. I
And
mean, I'm just
it
saying.
messes with, but I'm telling you, Derek, it messes with my mind. That's the fear. So trying not to put more emphasis on the fear factors and focusing more on the end result and just working towards that is what I balance with. And that's what helped me. But I'm going to be able to feel failure. Trust me, it's even in this new role that I'm transitioning in, being the only Black and African American, male in this particular arena with people who don't look like you and me, and having to have this type of responsibility. It's just that fear of what if that keeps me up. But I press forward.
So even with all the success that you've had, with all these different movements, fear is still a challenge for you.
Let me tell you, because the reality of something going wrong is still there, especially when you get into leadership. And the higher up you get into leadership, it's not just about you, it's about the people you hire. So you got to pray they do right. Because what good or bad, you get the credit. You get the credit or the blame. So you gotta. It's not all about me. Now I'm responsible for other people, and I gotta
Right,
make sure they're on point and they're human. They can make mistakes. So
right.
yeah, I must admit that fear of failure or some horrific error absolutely on top of mind,
Got you.
even though it's
You
not
know
an
what?
option.
I think when we talk to managers or we talk to our superiors, I don't think a lot of us tend to think about the idea that part of their success is dependent on us. And the the work ethic that you've espoused, you not only made yourself look good, you made your superiors look good. You, in part, built their dream by building yours by
And I'm
default.
living through that now. I'm living through that. My team knows. I tell them I'm only as good as you. And I let them know
Hmm.
I'm only as good as you are. But you're not going to make me look bad. I'm not going to have that. But yeah, I'm not going to look bad. So but you got to have the right people in place to be able to
Hmm.
support you because I can't, there's no leadership, there's no one to lead.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we're coming up on our normal half hour time, and
Okay.
I don't I wanna you've already given us a lot of good stuff. I told you you always give quality every time I talk to you. So let me ask you this: if you could speak to your 14-year-old self, lying about on your application to get a job,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to your 14-year-old self that maybe our viewers could take home with them?
The advice I would have given is limit the work and finish school.
Mm, got you.
If I could redo it, I would have finished high school. I just wouldn't have worked as much. I had no
Mhm.
business getting off at 12.
He said, I ain't had no bills.
I had no business. I had no business doing that, but I enjoyed the money and I allowed that. My mother hasn't had to buy me a pair of shoes or toothpaste since 14 till this day because I was doing it myself because I was getting money. But to
Right.
that point, if I could do it over again, that's the only part I would change. But I still would have got it. Notice I didn't say
Okay.
I wouldn't have taken the job. I still would have. I'm telling you now, I still would have said I'm 16. I just wouldn't have worked as much.
Okay. So that's advice to your 14-year-old self. Advice to your 25-year-old self.
Continue to persevere. I was in school throughout all of my 20s, but I had friends older than me. So I had friends that was 10 years older than me, 5 years older than me, that was already where I was trying to be. They already had degrees. They already was established. I would go out with them. We go out to lunch. Everybody at the table talking about vacations with Derek. I'm the only one
Mm.
sitting there like, one day I'll be able to do it. I'm just looking at them like, okay. So I laugh at you when we have the conversation because I used to be there. Now we go out and I pay for everything, and I'm like, well, guess where I went. And they're like, we don't care. We don't care anymore. We don't care. You know,
You late. You late to the party. You already 2 a.m.
uh,
Okay. Okay. Advice. Last one. Last one. Advice you would give to your post master's degree self.
that's a good question. My postmaster, I'm gonna be honest with you. I like the path I went, Derek. I did.
Got you.
I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't say the best thing that could have happened with me was knocking on those doors up in North Georgia uh, with a no name job, commission only pay, struggling during that time because I wasn't making as much until I started actually selling. I wouldn't change it. I've enjoyed the journey. I have.
Got
I
you.
wouldn't change it.
Wow. Wow. Well, my good man, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all these jewels. I told you, you give
I,
quality. I
I
appreciate
would
you.
like I would like to give a quick shout out to the financial ministry. I am so sorry. That's the
All
ministry
right.
I'm a part of at church. Yeah, I can't finish this without giving a shout out to the financial ministry. I'm the co-lead
Hey,
with my good sister Sabrina, and we're doing some great stuff there, even during the pandemic. So shout out to my
yeah.
financial ministry family. I hope that this makes the clip because I do remember you all. We just got so caught up. But shout out to you.
I tried to give us a little bit of buffer time
Oh
before,
no, you did a good job. And shout out
Uh,
to you. This was great.
thank you, man. My team is excellent, and they're so supportive, and I'm more than grateful for the people that I work with on this show. Man, so like I said, thank you for being here, Derek. If we need to find you, where do we go looking for you at? If you want to be
Hey,
found, I'm not sure.
yeah. Hey, I'm on Facebook. Facebook at Derek Grissom. That's my name. You'll see my picture. So just hit me up on Facebook, and that would be good.
Gotcha, gotcha. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had the esteemed Derek Grissom. And as always, I really appreciate his time just being here. And ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you for tuning in tonight on this episode of Financial Freedom. We got more to come. Stick with us. And for next week's episode is going to be good too. So again, I'm thanking my guest, Derek Grissom, for all the value he continuously brings
Thank
to
you.
our conversation. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm thanking you for joining us tonight. As always, be safe out there.
Thank you.
Washington is working really well for the folks who are well connected. But for people in the communities that I serve and people sitting around their kitchen table right now, I don't think it's working well. I still believe in the American dream, but there's a disconnect between the American people and what we're getting in Washington. We're seeing how this is working, and so I would challenge the people of Georgia to try something different. I'm Rafi.